So, we are in beautiful, the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, for episode 3, here with Logan Weaver.
Yes.
First things first, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking Liquid Death Rest in Peach. Liquid Death they only made sparkling water for a while, and it was pretty gas.
It's good, dude.
It's pretty gas. And I was a big fan. Lime was my favorite, but when I laid my hands on these, I took a right turn and I never went back.
That's good, dude.
I never went back. And I don't drink anything else, really. It's kind of like I'm a little bit stuck because if Liquid Death discontinues this flavor, I will be lost.
Be lost. You're just going to buy up like 80 cases. All right, yeah, no, that's how we open all this. It's not coffee today. I kind of like it, honestly, and I already had a nitro, so I'm just glad you didn't say, yeah, let's get coffee, because
Yeah,
I'd
you
be
would've
fucking
been
wired.
zooted.
But, yeah, dude, so my favorite question to ask, starting off besides what we're drinking today, is what really gave you the creative spark? So, like, even you can kind of point to somewhere in the beginning, and then we can kind of talk to where you started, where you're at now, or like somewhere in the middle. But what was, if there was one, something you can point to when you were younger that really just, you were like, I love doing this?
When I was a kid, I was always kind of more creative, just in general. Like, I always wanted to. It wasn't necessarily always good, but it was there. Like, I painted a toilet seat orange once in kindergarten. I got in trouble for that, but the teacher was like, "Hey, points for creativity." And but when I was so the thing is my whole family grew up doing photo albums.
Really?
And like scrapbooking, not just photo albums, like not like your family photo album. This was hardcore, like A&E series level scrapbooking. And
Damn.
they would go to Michael's, the arts and crafts store, and they would pick up, and like another store that was just for scrapbooking materials, which even as a little kid I couldn't believe existed. But they would pick up like props and like fancy pens and like super glue and like just like you can't even imagine it. But everything I ever did as a kid was documented on one camera or another. Whether it was a lot of those like
Oh, yeah.
and then you'd go get the film developed. Those disposable cameras, and then my grandpa filmed everything. Like
That's awesome.
up until I was probably like 10, my grandpa filmed everything. And he would walk around with like a camcorder, and he would have extra batteries, and you didn't need extra memory because you could film for 5 days and take up 100 megabytes of space.
Yeah.
And he would film birthdays and just like family dinners, and me and my like cousin, who's like my sister when I grew up, we would like put on talent shows, and he would just film everything. And so it was always just kind of ingrained in me as a kid to document things before I even really recognized it. And then I got a camera for my 10th birthday. It was a little like baby blue Canon power shot.
Oh, yeah,
just like
dude.
flip it on, and then the lens came out and was like on a different level of the lens.
That was like, for me, that was the MySpace days.
Oh.
Everyone and their mom had,
Yeah.
well, not their mom. They weren't on MySpace at that point, but everyone had those little point and shoots.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. And man, I took that thing everywhere, and I took the shittiest photos, but like kinda that some creative vision was there. Like it was unique angles, like just kind of a unique perspective. I would frame shots just kind of differently. And they sucked. They were, don't get that wrong. They were
No, you weren't
terrible photos.
The savant straight out of the womb.
No, I believe it or not. But my dad would take those shitty photos and print them at Costco on like a 16 by 24 or 24 by 36 print for like, $12 or whatever. Put it in like a little shitty plastic frame, and we would put them up around the house. And even though they weren't good photos, like it just kind of instilled in me like my photos,
seeing
and, like,
this
seeing
like
them
come to
every day
work,
and like seeing it. And I was kind of like progressing, and I did yearbook and stuff in high school, and then people started asking me to like take their like senior photos, or I would just like take just like a point and shoot to a party, and like just take our like like our pictures.
You became the guy.
Yeah, well, like I was the guy with the camera for sure. And then in college, I started. I wanted to go to med school,
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed.
Yeah, I wanted to go to med school, and I wanted to do pediatric surgery. I wanted
Gotcha.
to be a pediatric surgeon, and I started at school at DU, and I was like, nope, this is not for me. I loved science, and the science classes in college were just like math classes, and I hated math, and I realized that if I did something that I didn't really love for that long, I wouldn't be good at it, and I didn't want to risk that. And so, right around this time, I'd kind of been taking more and more pictures for people. Like I was taking pictures for our basketball team, and then kind of shortly after that, I decided that I needed to take a break from school and figure out, like, since I knew I didn't want to do medicine, like what the plan was going to be. And ever since there, and we can get into that later, but ever since there, the photo journey kind of took off, and that is really how, like, it all started. It, I guess, really with just like my family documenting everything when I was little, to me getting a camera, and then to like starting to use it a little bit, and like, you know, like kind of get a little bit tastier with it.
Yeah, dude, that's like my dad growing up always had the camcorder around. So I grew up like my mom still has them, like 20 photo albums, just whole bookshelf full of them. So I grew up like seeing that, and then with mine, I like started making hype videos for like our sports teams, like all this shit, and from there it just kind of like took off. But like my grandpa was a insane watercolor painter. So we had those all over my house growing up, and it was awesome to see. He would come and like take chalk and draw on our driveway, and it'd be like the best lighthouse I've seen.
Damn,
But it was
that's
just
sick.
like 90-cent chalk from Walmart or something like that.
Wow, that's sick.
I guess for you, talking more like, okay, so now you went to DU, and were you taking pictures of the teams there, or was that okay? So then from there, did you like start taking it more professionally? Like, what's the journey look like from there, kind of on?
So that's kind of all where it started, because I started college and I wasn't really taking photos, because majority of the photos I was taking in high school were from like yearbook or the sports teams, or just like my friends. And so when high school ended, all those things ended too. And so when I went to college, I wasn't really like, I didn't have like paid work, and I wasn't like really doing anything with it. And I just had a camera. I had a shitty Canon Rebel T5, I think.
Oh, T5i, dude, the thing is
Not even the I.
Not the
Just
I?
the T5.
Man.
Yeah, don't get fancy.
Hey, I had the T5i. That was my first DSLR.
Fun fact, I saw a T5 in a flea market yesterday for $15. And I almost picked it up, but it didn't have a battery or the lens.
That's an antique at this point.
I go into college, I'm not really shooting anything. But I am friends with this girl who's a model, who like knows that I shoot because it's like on my Instagram. And so she says, hey, we should do a shoot. Like, I want to do a shoot with like you and some of my friends. She said that, and then she had just like kind of more model friends and stuff, and then I was kind of shot with them a little bit. And none of this was really like paid. I was just kind of like shooting, but I was building my portfolio for sure, and I was like getting better, and I was kind of learning my workflow.
Had you done portraits up until that point? You said you did some senior pictures, but like...
I'd done like, I mean, yeah, I had, but not creative ones, really.
Okay.
Not ones where like I decided, okay, I don't need to like fit a mold into this. I don't need to have somebody lean up against a wall. This isn't a senior picture. Like, I can have creative freedom over this. Like, I hadn't really done anything like that yet.
And someone who kind of knows what they're doing.
Right. Somebody that was like, yeah, like photogenic and willing to like be on camera. Then like some other like model people would start hitting me up, and then like I was friends with some people on the like the basketball team at DU, and I started shooting for the basketball team, and those photos were like even like really good from my perspective now. Like, if I went back and re-edited them, I would for sure post some of them like today.
Really?
Yeah, just because like it was good. Like, there was people there in the crowds. It was high energy. Like, it was good light, and I was shooting these on a 6D Mark II.
Wow.
Yeah, with a 24 to 70 Mark 1 2.8, and but they were good, and it was fun, and I was like getting traction. I was like shooting for the other teams, and I was shooting. I was starting to like charge people money, and I was just kind of like, it was just kind of like getting some momentum, and then I got it to the point where I was shooting at X Games. Okay.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't shooting for X Games.
You were with athletes?
I was with some of the athletes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so we progressed to that point. At X Games, I walked past somebody that was on Big Brother.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
He was on Big Brother, and I watched like his whole season, so I was very familiar with like this person and his whole life, which is weird. And he also didn't live here, but I saw him at X Games, and I like went up to him and talked to him. I met this guy, and then turns out he was also a photographer and like a filmmaker, and just had moved to Colorado.
Damn.
And so I was like, this is dope. And he did not win, but he made it pretty far. Like he
Yeah.
made it into the late stages of the game. But then his friend did win. So he was on the game with someone else, and they became like best friends on the game. And then that guy won, but then they were still friends in real life.
Gotcha.
And so he and I have been working now together for a little bit. We're shooting. We've like had some client work together. And he did more video than me at the time, for sure. And he was a help. I had like been getting into video, but he was a good segue for like some first hands-on experience because I hadn't really done like that production level stuff with like, just like more than one person at a shoot.
Yeah.
And, like
Really building out that
setting
like,
up like
roster
a whole
of a crew and everything.
Exactly, like having multiple positions there and having like a gaffer and like I hadn't been doing that, and so he says, "Yo, my boy who won Big Brother wants us to like go shoot with him in L.A." And I'm like, bet that, and like at this point I had already. So it was right around this time that I'm like deciding, okay, I think I need to take some time off school.
Okay.
Because like I'm starting to gain momentum at this. I think I'm enjoying it. I kind of want to pursue it, see where it goes. Then come back, finish a degree in whatever I kind of deem makes sense after feeling this out. And so I took time off school. I took a leave of absence, which was like super easy. You could just go say, hey, I am going to need to drop these classes, and then I'll be back in 6 months. And then they're like, okay, bet, see you then.
Little gap.
It was really cool, yeah. And so I go out to L.A., we get off the plane, we get into an Uber, and we drive and drive and drive, and we pull up to the Ignite House.
And, like Dan Bilzerian?
Dan Bilzerian.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, is this the Ignite House? And he's like, oh yeah, but it's like not a big deal. And
It's
I'm
super
like,
chill.
I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. So we drive up, and then we go up to the rooftop gym an hour after I landed in LA, like, and had never traveled for
any kind of
work before. Had traveled and taken photographs for fun, but like had never traveled for work.
It's
Unheard of.
mind blowing. That first trip, dude, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
They're paying me
It's
to be
sick.
here? Yeah.
And while I'm in LA, I meet so many
Just like creatives.
just people, photographers, and doing impromptu shoots and just like networking. After that happened, I came back from LA, and then people kept saying, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you come here? Can we do this? I have an idea. Can you help with this?
Was this
All
like
in LA.
travel stuff or, it was all LA?
Because these were all people in LA.
Gotcha.
And so this was
Okay.
all in LA. And I was like, yeah. And so I started to like really heavily split my time between Denver and LA. And I rented a studio space in LA that was like a studio, like a photography studio, but had just enough space in the back for like a double bed. And so like I had a little like pallet and a
by
mattress.
any means.
Yeah. I had like a little pallet and a mattress and a little mini fridge, and I would go out there and like stay for like a week, run some shoots, whether they were at the studio
That's
or not.
nuts.
Yeah, and then come back.
So how old are you at this time? pretty young, right?
I'm 21,
21.
20,
That's
21.
crazy at that age, man.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, maybe even like 21, I think, yeah. And so yeah, it was really, really cool. And in doing that, I just had some really cool shoots for some really cool clients. I got really lucky with like some different clients, and a lot of this was just like through networking. And these weren't people that like, do not get me wrong, I wasn't like some legendary like individual on the scene that people were like seeking out. I was just meeting a ton of people and like apparently making a good impression or like having friends that like
Sometimes,
spoke highly of
dude,
me.
that good hang, like it's better to be a good hang than sometimes a sick photographer. You can be like an 8 out of 10 photographer, but be a better hang than a 10 out of 10. And
Totally.
people will hire you more.
Totally. And like it just it eliminates the if you're likable and someone likes kicking it with you, and then that person is in the market for something that you offer, and you just happen to offer that, it eliminates the need for them to seek that out somewhere else. Like, regardless of your ability, you're kind of the clear choice. Like, if they know you don't suck, you're kind of the clear, like, if they know you and they
Yeah.
like you and they know that they need something that you do, why would they pick somebody else?
Exactly.
And so I had a lot of like really like monumentous clients and like opportunities just because I was like in a room somewhere and met somebody one time.
It's the power of networking, kids. Network when you can.
Totally. It's everything. Like it's who you know and the impression that you make on them is more valuable than the gear you own, your technical knowledge, your income, anything. Because
it
it
also
dictates all that.
It's not even like it could also be like a secondary connection because you could be best friends with some photo video person out in LA and they can't make the shoot, but they're like, oh, we have a budget to fly someone in. Who do you recommend? And it could be like, oh, we like Logan. Like, here's his portfolio. And they'll be like, oh, this is sick. And if you recommend him, then we'll go with that. Because
Totally.
that secondary recommendation is such a high thing too. Because I know for us in Chicago, there's a group that we like will recommend each other for jobs. Like if we get a gig offer for whatever show, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually out of town this weekend, but I have my top two, and then beyond that, I usually like ask someone else for recommendations.
Yeah.
But it's just like, dude, if you have your tight circle of like 3 to 5 people, depending on location, you're set. Like, and then you become either that guy or you help that person get connected and they're set. So it's perfect.
Yeah, it's
Actually, you ended up shooting 2 friends because I was like chopping it up with Greg.
Yeah.
And him and I have now become super close. And I remember seeing that, and I couldn't remember if you guys actually like came to it. And then I saw you post pictures of the show, and I was like, "This is sick." So eventually, like you kind of make your way into now. We were talking. You had this role recently, and you were finding out a lot of difference in between like people who are specialized or people who like can do a lot of different things, so like a multi-tool. So like kind of I want to see what your take is on, you see a lot of creatives now, at least just sole creatives that can do a lot of that. And I think that's almost the expectation, but sometimes it's not as black and white.
dude, and it's crazy because I feel like we expect almost to have like a grab bag, like a wide variety of things in our belt that we haven't perfected. You know, you can do a lot of things and be a little bit good at them and not master any of them, which is so commonplace for creatives. Like, just to survive, I realized that starting from photo, okay, I had to start doing video. Starting from video, okay, I have to start doing like branding and marketing. From that, I got to learn web design and graphic design. And then from that, like, oh, now I have to learn types of even more specialized things within those categories.
You
That
go
are all
like a
different.
level
Like,
deeper.
in photo, I'm used to doing this, but now I need to learn 3D and I need to learn FPV drones and I need to learn how to use a Steadicam and a gimbal and how to use not only this one editing software but this other one. And it's just like you're learning so many things. And to us that's so commonplace. That just doesn't exist in the professional workforce. And I was so not expecting that disparity between what we're used to and then what I saw in like the professional space, because I took a break from full-time freelance and running my own business to do I was director of marketing at a company in Denver. And I had to like hire a team and build a team for this marketing department because it had been gutted by the last
And it was
people.
just you at that point.
Well, for a period of time, yeah, it was. I had to like clearly indicate to somebody what the responsibilities of the job were while also making it appealing in a professional tone, which was just like a really weird, it was just kind of like uncharted territory for me.
That's a whole nother like skill set too that you have to like.
Totally.
It's the whole business
Yeah.
side of it outside of just being a creative.
Totally. And so like it was weird. And so I'm going into it thinking that there's going to be people, because this is a very similar this is a very complementary field to what I was already coming from. I was thinking that it was going to be like a complementary workforce. And so I'm thinking, okay, I need somebody that's like creatively inclined, that knows how to use a camera for photo and video, that also can dabble in Illustrator and in design and enough to get by on like make our graphics and like our advertising materials. And then also somebody with like some marketing prowess that understands, at least to a degree, website traffic, SEO, organic traffic, what dictates those things. I realize that that person doesn't exist in the professional workforce. The people that graduated high school, went right to college, went right to the workforce from an internship into a career field, they don't have that repertoire of skills.
Like a grab bag of everything.
Yeah, at all. And there are some who have multiple within a category, but they very rarely ever cross over. So like somebody that knows graphic design may know their way around a camera, but they probably don't know their way around like data analysis.
Yeah.
Or like somebody that's really good at video probably is good at photography, but maybe not very good at like graphic design or web
Yeah,
design.
definitely like hard to find for sure. Because even like for us at Ghost, like when I started, I was like number 20 in Chicago or something like that, and the graphic team was 3, and the content team was 2. So I was doing all photo, Holden was doing all video, and then the graphic team, they were kind of like helping each other out, like within depending on labels, whatnot. Now we're both teams of 4. And the branding team, like we have a branding team now. We didn't really have that before. So it's like, dude, obviously we're, huge companies, so you have to like be able to like allow people to diversify. But when it's like a small team, you have to have those like the Swiss Army knife people.
What doing that made me realize is how rare in the professional space and incredible it is that we as like creatives collectively, like far and wide, have so many skills that we've learned, because we get pretty good at one until we're happy with it. We move on to something else and we learn that. We move on to something else and we learn that, and then we circle back and we get a little bit better at the first thing, a little bit better at the next thing, and it's just you do that over time and over time, and you by the time you're done, you know people. I know plenty of people that do still visuals, movies, graphic design, marketing, web design, and they like run a fucking clothing store, or they do e-commerce, or they do an Etsy store. Like there's also something else, always. And that's just, or they're a tattoo artist, or they're a musician, and all these other things. And it's not that we take it for granted, because it's obviously sick. I think other people take it for granted and don't realize the value that we really bring.
Yeah, dude, it's definitely hard too, because there's like some people, myself included, like I've seen both sides, where it's like I've done the freelance thing and I've also done like I'm now like full time. So it's more, there's always going to be pros and cons to both, to where the stability of your 9 to 5 is great, and then you can freelance on the side, but sometimes then you cannibalize your time with the 9 to 5. So it's you could pull in X amount per month 9 to 5, but then you could like do half of that 1 month or 2x the next freelancing. So I think like it's always different depending on like who you are, like what your situation is. But I think it's definitely hard when you're like one of those people to like justify leaving your freelance because it's, or like putting it on the back burner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's totally what I thought too. Like literally, I got into a 9 to 5 because I thought that it was going to give me a stable income and then the time to kind of restructure my freelance the way I wanted to, like start new opportunities. I was like, okay, this will be great because I'll have my bills will be paid every month, but then I can like take, I'm not going to be worried about paying the rent, so I don't have to like take an impromptu client that I like don't really want to take or something.
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen at all. I started working at this company and I couldn't do anything else because it was so high stress and there was so much, and I'm sure you could do it in a better work environment. But there was just so much to do at any given time that by the time I was done working, no amount of money could convince me to keep working, especially when the work was in the same vein as the work I just did all day. And so it was really rough. And like on weekends, I had 3-day weekends, thank God, because we were on 4-day weeks. But Saturdays were a wash. Like I couldn't even barely get out of bed because I was so gassed from the week. And then I would like try to clean up and shit. And then Sundays I would like try to do like an activity or like be outside or something. And then Mondays I would like try to get back into work mode and kind of like do errands or like get ready for work. And every single weekend I told myself, okay, Monday, like I'm going to work all day. I'm going to catch up on it.
Never did it.
Never. Sometimes if I
So
was like
yeah,
really
you're
need to hit a
dude. It'll
deadline.
tap you. Like if you're doing creative shit all week and then you have to like do more creative shit. Sometimes it is just burnout.
Burnout. Totally.
So yeah, dude, it's tough. And I mean, like drawing it back to you, like more rather than kind of the company side of things. Where and this is more as you as a creative. Where do you draw a lot of inspiration from? Like it can be a brand. It can be like specific people. What like it. Some people draw inspiration from the weirdest places, and it ends up being the sickest shit.
Yeah. I think it's split almost directly in two, which is emotion on one side and then powerful visuals on the other. And my whole life, like, I've been really kind of like sensitive to like people's emotions and like emotions depicted in movies. Like I really feel that shit. Like when they're happy, I'm happy. When they're sad, I'm sad. Even just watching something or being around like people that I'm close to. And so like I really absorb that shit. And so for me in a big way it was like movies and stuff growing up as a kid, because even like as a young boy I remember watching movies and thinking, wow, like this is filmed so cool and like raw and cinematically, and like it's written well and directed well, and like I could feel it and I loved that. And so that was one half of it, the emotion. And then the other half really is like powerful visuals. Anything that like I see that makes me just like kind of stop and like take a second look, that like really resonates with me, like is what I try to embody in all of my work, because that's what makes me creative and gives me motivation. So like whether that's a really cinematic like Christopher Nolan movie, or whether that's like really really cool lighting and I like have a shot lined up and I can envision something and I know how it's going to look on camera, or like if I'm going to style a model for like an editorial shoot and we can do something that like I know is going to make somebody stop scrolling. Like that's the stuff that really fuels my fire. And I don't want to set myself apart by being better than anyone else. I want to set myself apart by being like recognizable, and I made you stop scrolling.
Like
and
it's your style.
like you, yeah, like it yeah, exactly.
So that's because it's a take on it I haven't heard in terms of where people draw inspiration from, because it's usually like they'll be like, oh, this is like this artist or like this person, but like seeing how you draw inspiration from, it could be like the little nuances of a day or whatever it
Exactly.
is. Like if you just happen to see, I don't know, street photographers, for instance, like they see a story and can depict it in an image of just some guy sitting on a bench, but like how it's shot, like the lighting, like if it's casting, at this angle during this time of day, dude's reading a newspaper, it could be, just painted perfectly, but it's how they depict like that story. And I think that's really cool seeing how you draw inspiration from things that get overlooked. I think that because like something that catches your attention, but it's very easy to just be like, oh, that was cool, but it's like it could mean the whole world to someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that it's I've always kind of like known that about myself, but I don't know, like it's just I really feel the world. And I don't even really like mean to do that, but like I don't know, like if I see somebody struggling, like I can feel their struggle. Like I hate seeing people like eating alone at nice restaurants cuz it makes me like wonder if they're lonely, or like I like can really like feel like people's like energy and happiness if I'm around them. And then like likewise away from just people, like I really appreciate like good architecture and like good art direction by a brand and like good just like I don't know, just like anything. And maybe that sounds stupid, but like I don't just like pass people on the street. Like I notice like what they're wearing and how they present themselves, and like I don't know, like it's just all really cool to me that even when things are so like we're locked in all the time on social media and like that's all you care about is likes and TikTok dances, and like it seems like shit kind of sucks. If you shut that out, the world is still like really really dope, and that's what I kind of try to show in my.
Dude, that's I now that I think about it too is when before I got on a Ghost, I shot so much landscape and urban stuff, and I would just draw emotion. You can draw emotion from inanimate objects, like the mountains. Oh my god, dude, it's literally just the biggest feeling because I love. Sometimes you put a person in there just to show the sheer size and like that person being just the individual subject, but then you have like a compressed mountain behind them, and it just shows the magnitude. I think that's like some of the coolest depictions of what you can see in terms of power. I think of the Earth, or like Jimmy Chin, dude. He's like one of my favorite photographers.
Yeah.
He's the adventure goat.
Yeah, the goat.
But the way he photographs things, like he gets people's emotion so well, but he also includes them in like their 10,000 feet above or whatever, but it's depicting the emotion of the person, but showing the magnitude of the situation is like the coolest thing. And
Yeah.
I miss that. I don't shoot that as like at all anymore. And I know I could go out and do it, but it's just like, I just haven't. And it was like one of the coolest ways that I got into it was because I liked seeing that kind of stuff. So
It's actually really interesting that you say that, because when I first started photography, and not even first started, like well into like doing photography, I was always kind of like resentful that I couldn't get my photo to look the way that my eyes saw something. And so I hated that, like especially with like a landscape or a sunset or something very nature oriented, that like I just couldn't get the photo to look like what I was seeing. And maybe there was like some technical knowledge there that was the issue. But what's really funny though is that over time, like when I really embraced that kind of what we were just talking about, and like that intent and purpose behind my work and like what I look for and what inspires me, when I really embrace that, now I see the whole world through the way that my camera sees it, because I realized that the way the camera sees it and the way that you are able to frame something creatively is even more special than the way that you see it, because that's the way that everybody sees it. It's the way what it looks like isn't special. It's how you interpret it. And the way I'm interpreting it is via my camera. And so
that's your vehicle.
exactly. And so like it's not that I was out looking at like a beautiful landscape and felt like I couldn't capture it, because like I needed to capture what I saw, because that was the problem. I didn't need to capture what I literally saw. I needed to capture what I wanted to see and how I wanted other people to see it.
It's like capturing the feeling.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's like you always want to look back and you're like, holy shit, like you can feel like that's what I think so many artists want to depict in their art. I think I call art like photography, video art. They're all artists. I just at the end of the day, I think I'd call them all artists because they're telling a story and relaying information or not information, emotion. And I think that's the biggest thing as an artist.
It's pivotal because as soon as I realized that, then it kind of changed the way that I shot because I didn't feel like I needed to show what was there. I needed to exactly like let you feel it and let you feel like you were there. And it really like it's funny because you'll see it in like the way I film, like it really changes, like it's reflected in my work. And it's funny too when you I think a handful of people ever have done this because they've told me about it. But like, if you scroll all the way down to my Instagram, all the way down to the bottom, and you let everything load, and then you just scroll up like gradually over time, it's unbelievable how much it changes. But you can always see kind of like the idea is there, but my grasp on it and my confidence in what I want to show and my technical knowledge all kind of like improve and come together to bring us to today. And it's crazy to look through because over time you see a foundation of like kind of trying to show emotion and like getting people to like feel like making work that'll resonate with somebody. And then now that's just all it is, I think, for the most part. And I've done a good job at that, I believe. And it's a cool journey because it's the only thing that's tangible that represents my journey.
Yeah, and I think too, it's always like tough too. I know like now I personally like in a lot of other creatives they deal with like a lot of self doubt in their because I think like we all kind of get in our heads too. It's so easy, and I've talked with the other guests about this, but it's like so easy to compare yourself, and the biggest thing is just comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. It's like one of my favorite quotes. But do you like deal with that, and like how do you get yourself out of kind of like if you're in a rut or you're just sitting there, it's like this is like it's not like perfection is never going to happen, but it's like this isn't up to the level that I want it to be yet, but then you like keep doing it. Like is there a way that you kind of will be able to get yourself out of those?
The thing that inspires me the most, more than anything else in our whole field, is what other people create. And like I have access to this huge network of people, of extremely talented people across a huge variety of mediums that in their fields are like absolute masters and artists. And like whether it's photography or filmmaking or graphic design or musicians or like artists, whatever, I have access to all these people in some way. And so when I'm feeling like that, which is often, I will just like scroll through Instagram or like go to like somebody's page that I really like admire and like their work historically and like scroll through it and see what they're doing. And it's not to like it's not that I'm like looking for ideas. It's that I'm like looking for a reminder of what's out there to be shot and that I just need to take it and like come up with a plan and put something together and make it happen because sometimes I'm like, well, I'm out of shit to do. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing around here. There's like, especially in Denver, I feel stunted like that all the time. And then I have plenty of friends who live in Denver who make dope shit all the time. And so, like, that's a really good, humbling reminder for me that, like, there is no justification for not being creative because all I have to do is walk outside and, like, my creativity is already there. So something will just fall into my lap at some point.
You just got to do it.
Exactly. And then
Okay.
scale that to, like, I'm literally
Fledging
one
it out.
DM or text message or call away from any shoot. Like, I've got access to, like, probably, like, I could hit up a musician. I could probably hit up, like, a driver. I know people with cool cars. Like, I know plenty of athletes. Like, luckily, like, I'm blessed to have made that network, but I could hit up any one of them and say, hey, like, let's do this shoot just for fun. Like, I just have a creative idea. And so there's no excuse. And the thing that reminds me of that is, like, seeing it and just seeing my friends and people that I admire creating really dope shit. It reminds me to, like, get off my ass. And
Damn, I mean, you don't really see a lot of people like, or hear a lot of people talk about it that way. Mostly people see it from comparison, like that standpoint. I think that's a really cool viewpoint on that. And I think like drawing inspiration from others I mean, like it's always like, what is it? Collaboration over competition. That's like at the end of the day, it's just like trying to make everyone better.
yeah.
Rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah, dude, fuck gatekeeping for real. Like, what gate are you keeping, dude? Like, you're worried that if you teach somebody something you know, or like let somebody know that you like their shit, that like they're gonna become a threat. The world's too big for that.
Man, they're gonna take the food right off your plate. That's the mentality of that.
And that leads me to a really important lesson that I learned early on, and that like is something that's like kind of difficult to talk about because it sucks to admit. But early on, like I did that shit, and I didn't like really gatekeep, but like I acted like my shit didn't stink. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was too cool for school, and like looking back on that, that was so fucking asinine because I wasn't shit. What I was doing wasn't that dope at all, and like I lost opportunities because I thought I was too good for something, and sometimes that was like just a collab shoot that wasn't going to be paid, or sometimes it was like a client that couldn't afford to pay me what I thought I was worth at the time, which is so just arbitrary and dumb. Like the value is meeting that person and doing the shoot, not the money that's going to be blown the next day, you know? Or it would be like missing a connection on like a trip, or like a creative trip with people because I didn't want to like spend the bread on it. Like it was just whatever. Like, and it wasn't all like it was never intentionally arrogant, but it totally was. And thank God I learned that lesson kind of early on because
Yeah.
it could have really fucked me. But like it taught me that the number one thing you need to do is realize that like you're not shit. First of all, there's always going to be somebody much better than you, and as soon as you can accept that and look at them as like inspiration and as a guiding light for everyone else and as like a source of education and wisdom or whatever, or just like a goal for yourself, the better off you're going to be. Because I didn't adhere to that philosophy early on, and it kind of like fucked me, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way.
So I guess like on top of that, is there any other advice, like kind of in closing here, that we've hit a lot of things that you've learned like along your creative journey. What are some like pieces of advice that not only you would give to yourself but to creators in this new space? Because you've seen your progression and you've made your own mistakes. You fell on your face, like we all do, but sometimes that is applicable in different ways now. So like with the new market of creators, or whatever advice that you want to give to like people who might listen to this and think, "Oh, I can draw like this one point. If they take away that one point, that might help them."
Can I say a couple?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
More like if one point
like
resonated with them, but like you can give a few.
yeah, the TLDR.
Yeah,
The TLDR is never say no. Never say no to an opportunity. Never say no to a client because of financial limitations. Like figure out a way to keep that connection, make that client like just figure something out to have that experience instead of not having it, because even if you don't get paid, even if it's a pain in the ass, even if like you have to spend your own money on something, having the experience is always better than not having it. So never say no. The next one is hone your craft and as many crafts as you can. Like we talked about, do not stop learning anything. Learn something new every day. Once you think you're good at photography, learn videography. Once you think you're good enough to like learn something new from there, learn graphic design, learn web design. Like just keep learning and pushing yourself to learn new information. And I think the last one, and most importantly, is always chase only yourself. And then, like Matthew McConaughey says in that Grammy or in that Oscar speech, like, don't chase anyone else. Don't look at anyone as competition. Don't think on an arbitrary who's better than anyone else. Just chase the next version of you and whatever needs to happen for you to get to that next version. Chase the version of you with more money, the version of you with more clients, the version of you with more followers, the version of you with a better network and like cooler clients. That's the only thing you chase, and you look at everybody else around you as fuel and education and resources to make that happen.
yeah, definitely. I think too is as you climb the ladder, I always say it, like Johnny and I hit this, and you say it different ways 100 times, but it's when you get up, you send the elevator back down. You help someone else up the stairs, like, whatever it is, because you at one point were that person, and you know, you might connect with someone and that might bring you up to the next level, but someone is trying to get to where you just were. So you helping them is just going to help creativity as a whole. Like they might, dude, they might have just started, but they might know this one thing that like I don't know, but I'm gonna learn it right away. So I think that's like such a big thing for people who have established themselves, and it's part of the reason why I called this the No Names podcast. Is like everyone starts with no name, and eventually, like along the way, you reach out to people who are above or below you, and those people who are not below you, you know what I mean, but like
Totally.
just starting out, like further back in their journey, you help them move forward and someone is going to help you move forward and you all like kind of create your name and build your audience and your craft just becomes better and better with every little like person you meet, interaction you have, whatever it is. And I think that's just such a big thing, kind of like building off of what you said.
Yeah, I don't know when we like forgot about leadership. Like we've been learning about being a good leader and like a good role model to your peers since kindergarten. Like what happened? Did we forget those
I think that was
lessons?
right
like,
after your ABCs too.
like yeah, it's like the first thing we learned. Like being a leader is not making the most money, you know, getting at the top and then acting like you're above everyone else. Like being a leader is, like you said, sending the elevator back down, bringing people along with you, teaching people things, letting yourself learn things from other people, because no matter where someone's at in life, they always have something to teach you, probably way more than you could ever imagine. And like that's real leadership and how you get places in life. And I can't believe, and luckily it's not very prevalent in our field.
It's
at all.
gotten way better.
But yeah.
Honestly, I remember when I first started, dude, people were so, and I get it because I was asking like very novice questions that I could have just Googled, but I would be like, oh, what lens are you using? And they would just like, be like do your own research or something like that. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to figure shit out, man. And it definitely is hard. And I like have friends who they get a lot of questions all the time, like very similar questions. And it is hard. Like as your following gets bigger, you're getting the same question 5 times a day. And it's just hard to like keep up with that. But like, it's not in a matter of rude, like, oh, fuck you, you're too little, whatever it is. It's a matter of like, you know, just trying to help people now. I think that's the biggest thing. And it's pretty cool to see that shift in the space. Luckily, like, it's not, I'm sure it's prevalent still, but it's not as prevalent.
And you never really know, like, the thing is like, you have to be a leader at all times because you never really know who looks up to you. Like, there could be somebody that reveres me as like this in the same regard that I revere someone else that I view as like arbitrarily more progressed in their career than I am. Like somebody could see me that same way or like look up to me or emulate my work, and that's really, really cool, and it gives me an opportunity to like be that resource for people and touch them. Even if I can't touch them like directly, I can, you know, post stories or material or content that like reinforces to them like, hey, this is something that you can do too, and like you're on the right track.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, we'll go ahead and close it there. I'll give you a little cheers to our liquid death. This shit is fire.
These guys.
But thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. It's appreciate the artwork. This is fucking sick. Your space is sick. It was a great host, our boy Logan in Denver. Wrapping up episode 3. We will catch you soon, and peace.